free on your radio and free on your phone. Find WICC in your app store. It's Melissa in the Morning on WICC 600 AM and 107.3 FM.
Joining the show now is attorney Eric Chaffin of Chaffin Luhana, and he represents people who became seriously ill after using a popular weed killer, including Roundup, made with a certain chemical. And so we welcome you back to the show, Eric. I always love having conversations with you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And since you're the pro and you know this case obviously inside and out, I am not going to botch any of the names of these products or the chemical. I'm going to leave that one to you. Let's first talk about what prompted your interest in cases involving some of these weed killers like Roundup and the chemical that is certainly very troublesome and has impacted people.
Yeah, so there's two at issue in the country. One is Paraquat. The second one is Roundup. Roundup is probably most familiar to listeners because it's available. You can walk into a local Home Depot or store and pick it up and use it on weeds in your yard. Paraquat is more of a commercial non-selective herbicide, which is used on commercial farms. Each of these have been linked to different types of injuries, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is what glyphosate or Roundup is causing, and then Paraquat is causing Parkinson's disease, is the allegations.
Wow. And so, you're right. So Paraquat, the reason I didn't want to botch that one is I was not familiar with that. However, I have heard that this has been an issue like on the commercial front. But, this isn't when you say that, is it mostly for bigger pieces of land like you're saying with farms? Or is it, for example, if you've been contracting, people to come out to your yard and do sort of mass spraying, would they be using Roundup or Paraquat?
They would be using Roundup on your yard on residential. So Paraquat is not allowed to be used on residential property because it's so deadly.
Oh, okay.
As small as a pea-size amount of Paraquat's enough to kill you within hours. And so Paraquat's actually been banned in most countries. I say most, 100 and some countries around the world, but it's still allowed to be sold here in the U.S. And there's a really compelling back. Yeah, I know, right? And the real irony is Syngenta, who manufactures and sells it in the U.S., is actually owned by a Chinese company, and China doesn't even allow it to be sold in China. And so it's a lot of ironies to the story, unfortunately. And so from our perspective, there isn't a safety system that is available for Paraquat use that's safe. The EPA disagrees with us right now, but I think over time, the science is building even more and more, showing that these types of products are causing these injuries. And I think as we go forward, the science is there, but I think generally in society, science is catching up to the point that we're able to prove causation much more readily in cases like this, which is why we're seeing so many now versus what we did 25, 30 years ago.
It is a tricky one, I have to say, Eric, because I know just in the last year, for example, when we were doing the legislative session, I had some firefighters from the state of Connecticut come on and they were trying to pass legislation. Ultimately, they did in some regard for more protections in place for firefighters who end up developing or getting cancer. They get diagnosed with cancer because of what they're on, what they're doing on the job, but also because of their uniforms. And for a long time, it took so much for them to even prove that that there were cancer-causing chemicals in their uniforms, which is just wild. Yeah. So tell us, when you're talking about serious health conditions like non-Hodgkin lymphoma, Parkinson's, those are major, major health issues, deadly, obviously. What is the process to even determine liability for people if they develop this and finding the link with these weed killers?
Yeah, so if you look at the weed killers or like the AFFF or PFOAs, which is what the issue with the firefighters, it really starts with population-based epidemiological studies, which show the trends and association between products and the end injuries. And then experts, and they're highly skilled experts, and some are based in professors, some are in the commercial industry, and they're looking at what we call Bradford Hill criteria. And so they look at the overall picture of the science, and they do a weight of the evidence analysis typically, and are offering opinions about the cause and effect of the products to people in society. And, there's very specific parameters in terms of exposure. The cases can be complicated, but at the same time, the storylines are pretty easy to understand for juries, and that juries are just getting so upset about the cases, which is why we see big verdicts in Philadelphia, for example, of over $2 billion against Bayer and its Monsanto on Roundup. It's because the story is just these companies know a lot of information that's just not disclosed publicly. And so once the juries see it and they see the association that the companies themselves know, that's where the companies are really getting these big verdicts against them, because the public's just so outraged about what's going on.
Well, and there's so much access to information, Eric. When you see, like, for example, like you were saying, this situation, a high-profile verdict with Bayer, to me, I would think that has a huge impact on future litigation, no?
Yeah, it does. And really, in society right now, the EPA, it was just the Supreme Court has just gutted the EPA and other executive branch functioning, because they say that, we have to curb back and look at the Chevron standard that was out there, and we have to really limit the ability of the executive branch to regulate is what's going on. And so as a result, the juries really are the only recourse for people now to really get the public aware of what's going on, because the EPA is not supporting it anymore. They're just not giving information out. And it's really the commercial entities that have the information, which is really what's happening with these verdicts. And so we think that the best deterrent effect is the verdicts. And, I know the public generally, people are so tuned into tort reform messaging and saying, for example, wait, these runaway verdicts are wrong. But once you look at what's underneath of them, the people are just so upset about what's going on, and there's no stopping it. And there's nothing else except for a profit motive that's out there for these companies. And so they have no incentive to really protect the public with their products. And then someone's got to be there to help them, to help the general public. And unfortunately, the EPA is not these days.
And again, attorney Eric Chaffin is here of Chaffin Luhana. So, Eric, what would be your advice to somebody who thinks that they've been impacted or that they got sick because they were exposed, for example, to, Roundup and Paraquat?
Yeah, I think the important thing is it doesn't cost anything for people to reach out to an attorney and just have the case evaluated, have the situation evaluated. Is there some causal relationship that should be looked at, and do they have a potential cause of action? There's statute of limitations on claims, and so it's really important to not sit back and wait, because if you do wait, you may be too late to actually bring a claim. And there's a lot of active claims around the country against both Syngenta as well as Monsanto and Bayer for the different products. And I think it's really important to take action, not sit back. And you can do that as simple as a web search. Certainly our firm, Chaffin Luhana, we're happy to talk with people, but there's a lot of good firms out there handling cases and can really give you a free case evaluation, which is really then gives you the option and choice about what you want to do and what's best for you and your family. And, that's what I would encourage people to do. Eric,
if somebody wanted to contact your law firm, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way to reach us is just go on the web and type in Chaffin Luhana, Chaffin, Luhana, Luhana, and you'll see us. And just, there's various ways to contact us through the web, and that's probably the easiest way for folks.
Well, attorney Eric Chaffin, we appreciate the work that you do, obviously, with Chaffin Luhana, but thank you so much for making the time and really normalizing what seem like they are very complicated cases, but understanding it a lot better here on WICC. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you driving awareness to the general public. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Again, attorney Eric Chaffin here of Chaffin Luhana on WICC. We are going to go to traffic and weather on this Monday morning. We're so glad you're with us on Melissa in the Morning right here on WICC 600 AM, 107.3 FM, and online at WICC600.com.
WICC Smart